This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.
This episode is sponsored by Monkey Stuff. Monkey Stuff makes things for makers. We're inspired every day by the craft and creativity of makers, and design and manufacture tools and accessories to try to make your making life a bit more delightful. Our products are designed in California, by makers and for makers, and manufactured in the USA. Check out our line of pottery accessories and tools at monkeystuff.com. Follow us on Instagram to see what we're up to in our studios, and keep on making great things.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rosenfield Collection of Functional Ceramic Art. The collection exists as an online source for research and inspiration, featuring photos of thousands of objects made by over 800 artists. The images are high quality and can be used with no permission required. To find out more, visit www.rosenfieldcollection.com. Hello, my name is Kathy King, and welcome to the Flux Sake podcast. I'm coming to you from the Harvard Ceramics program in our fair city, Allston, Massachusetts. I'm here with Rose and Matt Katz of the world-famous Ceramic Materials Workshop, and they are ready to answer your burning questions about clay and glaze. Well, hello, Matt and Rose.
Hey, Kathy.
Hello, Kathy.
It is so good to see you. It has been a minute. I'm very excited about today's episode.
It's always thrilling to be here. Rose is stuck with me, so she's kind of getting excited for being with you.
This is like Tuesday, it's, But it's nice to have you, Kathy, of course.
Oh, I thank you. I thank you. You know what? Before we get started, I saw something rather disturbing on Instagram, and I wanted to ask about it because I'm not quite sure what the story is here. But I swear I saw somebody milling red stain. Have you seen that?
You got that ad?
Yeah.
I got that one too.
Yeah,
what is the story about that? And isn't that dangerous? Isn't that toxic? Is that terrible?
Yeah. I mean, okay, to be short and blunt,
Please. Yeah.
do not mill encapsulated stains. Do not mill encapsulated stains. Red, orange, yellow. Don't mill them.
Why would
There's a
I
reason.
didn't even understand why they would want to in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, we should step back for everybody who doesn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
There's been a person who has been putting up ads on Instagram, and they're advocating making color being like these bright colors, and they're working with stains. And like that part is perfectly fine. I got no problem with that. And it's true. Stains are much brighter than glazes. And they're definitely advertising sculptural surfaces, which is good because they're not making glazes, which you really, really need to have food safe surfaces. And that part's fine. The real thing, as Kathy noted, is that this ad shows the person putting red stains in a mortar and pestle and grinding them up. And that is very dangerous. That's bad, you guys. Like, I was honestly shocked when I saw it. And those of you who've been around us, I commonly think that ceramicists are a little too paranoid about some of the health and safety things that we deal with. I think that, there's precaution is good, and taking care of yourself is good. But this person, they're grinding encapsulated stains, and encapsulated stains are containing cadmium. And cadmium is actually something that is really dangerous. Like, it could have serious long-term health consequences. And they show themselves putting on a respirator, which is fine, but they're not wearing any gloves. And then they're going and milling cadmium. So what's the inherent problem? we've said before on the show that there are only two materials in the US and in most of the world that have any regulations as far as health and safety. Those are lead. We talk about lead all the time. And the other is cadmium. And cadmium is a colorant that will make bright yellows or bright reds specifically, and some oranges and in those types of things. And cadmium is super dangerous. Can have very serious chronic health problems, which is why it is regulated. Like, one of the things I always say about the regulations is like, people get freaked out about like chrome. Yeah, there's no regulations on chrome because it's been studied and the concerns are not particularly relevant. It's just that ceramics people like to freak out about it. But cadmium has been studied and has been proven to be like a serious health threat. And so what had happened is like the stain companies came up with this version of stains they call them encapsulated. And that's a really convenient marketing term because it makes you think of like it's in like a pill and all. No, it's not that. It's literally how did you describe it, Rose? It's just
like smushed together.
Yeah,
pancake together.
So cadmium and what smushed together?
And zirconium. So like
zirconium.
Ultrox Zircopacks. And it does stabilize it. And I don't think that the companies would be selling them if they didn't think that it was an okay product to sell. And it definitely does stabilize it. The problem is if you ask the stain companies, they would say, absolutely do not mill an encapsulated stain because you are breaking apart those granules and you are exposing yourself to pure cadmium. And that like, again, I am real casual about health and safety according to most ceramicists, but that is something like no, and like big no, and like please don't and no, and oh my gosh, and with stains in general, their stability is based in their chemistry and in their physical properties, and so when you go and mill them like that,
yeah. We had, I mean, it's serious in the studio. Just the other day, I saw a student that was working independently, not in a class, but just working on, and I noticed they were working with colored clay. And then I saw them taking some of our Cone 6 white stoneware and just sprinkling stain into it. And this isn't stain from our studio. They brought it in. And I was like, what? Can you please come to the principal's office with me? And I was like, and they saw it, they learned it off of Instagram, and I had to go through like all the reasons why, we certainly don't use, loose powders and common spaces, and you need to be certified to use our materials room by taking, a class with Matt. So anyway, yeah, I don't know, the kids today. On the interwebs. I don't know what to say. People. Just be careful out there, kids.
Well, but the ceramics internet is wonderful, but yeah, like you get people that are proclaiming a level of expertise or like just because they discovered like one thing or like figured out that like, yeah, stains are really pretty. Can you put stains in clay bodies? Sure. There are stains that are literally sold as body stains. But you have to use those stains. They have to be mixed well. And then much less I would honestly be more upset with that about like the contamination of the studio. Like that this is a public space and, that stain has cobalt in it. And anyone who's worked with blue things knows it gets everywhere. It's never going to go away. Like it's just a huge problem. Even it's
where
like
does
the
blue
toxicity
come from?
Yeah. The toxicity, if it's the pure product, is less than, which is why this one thing I'm so concerned about them milling it and breaking down those granules. I remember I was in a conversation, I don't remember where, on Facebook or something years ago, where a person was asking about mixing chrome in with their clay bodies, and everybody on there was completely freaking out about the health and safety implications. But I was just like, there's no solubility of chrome. Chrome is not water soluble and you can't absorb it through your skin. And so, whatever. But the mess is bad. B, yeah, don't mill and grind them is really the major thing. And the other thing is I have not seen what this person is trying to get across with these ads, but like it's just to understand those are not food surfaces. And I assume that this is being said as much, I certainly hope, but if you are using raw stains, even stains with a little bit of frit, that is not a food surface. It must be in a glaze, and it must be in a stable glaze for adequate performance. So yeah, just watch out, everybody.
Wow. How about colored clay that has a clear glaze over it? If it's, say, a mug, is that safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Okay.
bother me in the slightest. Yeah, that's
Oh,
perfectly
thank
fine.
God. Okay.
Well, that's just what underglazes are, right? That underglazes are they're just slips with a ton of stain in them. But yeah, that they're generally not for a direct food surface.
Well, good. Well, let's get going here because we've got so many great questions. Let's hear first from Sylvia, who is calling in from the mountains of Venice in northern Italy. Isn't that wonderful? That's so
Yes.
cool.
Can I go there?
I know we're going to go in person and answer this. That would be preferable. But Sylvia has a question about ash glaze.
Hello, Kathy, Rose, and Matt. This is Sylvia from the mountains of Venice in northern Italy. I'm addicted to your show, and I really, really thank you for changing my life as a potter. I'm very much into minimizing the impact of our less than green line of business. Therefore, I try to use and reuse materials up as much as possible. I've been using the ash from my fireplace for a couple of years and have, at least I think I have, perfected one recipe that gives very nice results. It is 32% wood ash, 32% nephsite, plus silica, kaolin, and ball clay. No boron sauce, then. It does not look under fire to a hot cone 6, but how do I know whether it is under fire if I cannot compare it to the recommended boron values because it has none? And also, is the use of ash detrimental to the health of my heating elements? I love the show and thank you so, so much.
Well, don't you know it's fired when it looks like snot? Sorry, everybody.
I think Kathy just laid out her opinion on ash glazes.
Said the cone 6 oxidation graffito artist.
Man,
Yeah.
I thought I had an opinion. I kind of like ash. Woodfire Potter, send your emails to Kathy King at the Flux Sake Podcast.
I love Woodfire. I do. So she's creating her own, just right at home. That's great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's totally doable. That's where we get our wood ash from.
Yeah. I'm gonna say we have wood ash too from our wood stove.
We were going through a thing recently because we've been doing some wood ash testing, and we live in the woods in northeastern US, and we have a wood stove, and so we collect the ash and use it for ash glazes. But I'd recently said to Rose of, do you know, because she orders the wood, we don't chop it down ourselves, we get it from a wood supplier. And I said, do you know what kind of wood we use?
Yeah, the people are really serious about that.
Oh yeah. Well, ours is birch, beech, some oak, and ash is definitely a big part of it. Ash trees are dying all over the Northeast, so they're all getting chopped up for firewood.
Yeah. But it did mean that whatever our ash was is just an amalgam of all those different trees. And that's the thing to know about wood ash is that every single tree has got different chemistry, which is amazing. If you go there's no contemporary reference on this, but if you go to the Potter's Dictionary, and you look at the wood ash section, they will actually give you chemical analysis of different tree species. The problem with that is that those are also going to change literally from tree to tree. And so then we face the hard thing about wood ash is like, it's always different. So even to like the basic question of like, how do you know? And the answer is you don't, because it's pure chaos at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
But how does Sylvia tell if her glaze is properly fired?
Kathy wasn't wrong. It doesn't look like snot.
Thank you.
Not glaze it is. Okay.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, so the interesting thing, so those of you who never worked with wood ash, like it is literally a ceramic material. Once you burn it, you've burned out all the carbon. So carbon is the fuel that's in it. And what you get left with is like silica and a little bit of alumina and sodium and calcium. It is like the ingredients of a glaze is what's left in the ash. And it might not be a clean burn, so it's not clean. There'll be some blackness or grayness. That's just carbon that hasn't burned off, but that will burn off in the kiln. So you don't really need to care about it. The melting though is it just works like all the other materials. So, the cool thing is we've actually done this testing with the wood ash from our wood stove is to put it into a UMF calculator based on what you find in the Potter's Dictionary, and then just treat it like a normal glaze ingredient, and it works exactly as you would expect. So like when, we talk about our stall map, it does that. If you just put in wood ash and then balance out your flux ratios and then just add silicate alumina, you literally get matte glazes and glossy glazes and phase separated glazes and under fire glazes, just like you would on Stahl's map. It works completely perfectly. So what you should expect is, if you know your chemistry, Sylvia, is that it should look like the prediction plus or minus the wiggle room. And that's the harder part of because you don't know the exact chemistry of the wood ash, it's never going to be exactly as Stahl predicts. But if you sort of see what it's doing and then add silica, it should follow the predictions. Or you see what it's doing and you add alumina, it should follow the predictions. But it is literally just all of those things. But how well melted is it? Yeah, it'll be a little snotty.
Well, there's a difference too about, whether it's mixed into a glaze recipe versus like I've seen people glaze a piece with and then
ash.
sprinkle ash. And you see that as kind of like blotches of, different greens and tans and stuff, and sometimes like a texture. But within a glaze recipe, it seems like you'd see that the glaze was a glaze.
And going back to but even just what wood firings are, that's actually hilarious. I was just talking about a friend with this the other day. Wood firings are great for community and for primitive kilns and all of that. But the actual buildup of wood ash is kind of just a pain in the butt byproduct of firing a wood kiln.
Right. But a lot of people love it.
No,
yes,
and absolutely. I started as a wood-fired potter.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I get it.
Sure.
But you can just I've got to go find this. I remember the first copy of Ceramics Monthly I ever got. This is like in the mid-90s. And it was a potter who was building these rigs so he would put pots on their side, and then they were sort of sitting in a bowl, and he would just sift ash on top of them and then just put them in an electric kiln. And they would have all this crazy running meltingness. And yeah, of course, because it's just, and do it in an electric kiln, I should say. And all the testing we did was in an electric kiln, because you just need heat to melt the wood ash. It's not like it's crazy high temperature. I know there's wood fire potters out there was oh, it needs to get to cone 14 to melt the ash. No, it does not. It absolutely does not. You just need heat to melt the ash, and you need enough ash buildup. And the fun part of the wood kiln is yeah, you get the chaos of the kiln and all of that, but you can just put wood ash on pots. It will melt. And in an electric kiln, there's no air convection. So it's not blowing it around and moving it. So it'll be exactly.
Yeah. Because that's what she asked about as well. If this could damage her elements or her kiln.
Nah. No, the only problem would be the carbon that hasn't burned out, but carbon just turns into carbon dioxide. It's literally nothing.
And watch out when your ash, add it to water, you're changing the pH of your water. So wear gloves.
Yeah. Wear gloves. Yes. Unwashed ash is very corrosive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. Well, Sylvia from the mountains of Venice in northern Italy, you are cleared for landing. Keep going. Keep it up.
Now a snippet from where Matt doesn't talk. Hey, for Flux Sake fans, looking to take your ceramic skills to the next level? Well, check out this incredible 2 to 5 day workshop offerings at Snow Farm, the New England craft program, where world-class ceramic artists lead hands-on, immersive workshops in wheel throwing, hand building, surface design, and more. Whether you're just starting or refining your voice in clay, there's a workshop for you. Set in the stunning Berkshire Hills of Western Massachusetts, Snow Farm is a perfect place to create, connect, and get inspired. To register for a workshop today, visit snowfarm.org.
This episode is brought to you by Cornell Studio Supply, located in the gem city of Dayton, Ohio. Find all your pottery and ceramic sculpture equipment and supplies with the best customer service and world-class workshops. Join us for our upcoming Rocket Kiln Workshop with Lisa Orr, July 18th through the 20th, 2025. Visit CornellStudioSupply.com to sign up. Cornell Studio Supply, owned and operated for potters by potters.
All right. Our next question comes from Jennifer, and Jennifer is in dire need of a high-speed mixer, apparently.
Hi, Matt, Rose, and Kathy. This is Jen from Washington, D.C. I am doing some testing for the development of a porcelain clay body, and I'm wondering if it is possible in a home studio to adequately mix up V-gum or macaloid or bentonite. I've been reading a lot about how difficult it is without a power mixer, which I do not have access to. Thanks for your help, and I love the show.
Oh, is she talking about like a clay mixer, like a big
She's
clay
asking,
mixer?
yeah. If
Okay.
Well, no, I think she's asking if she could use macaloid, vegan, bentonite, but without a mixer.
A clay mixer, not a smoothie mixer, not a handheld.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
As we just did this last week.
I was going to say, you just did this in the shop. So
we have been doing experiments recently with how badly you can mix things.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so much fun. It's unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Like, how badly can I mix this? And what are going to be my results?
Kind of like America's Worst Cook, or one of those shows.
It's not wrong, because it's always that question, like we came from a place where like mixing is key. And so like Rose and I are always sort of obsessive about mixing, like industrially, like that's the thing. You mix and you mix and you mix.
Yeah. And you mix some more.
Yeah. And so we mix on timers. We use high-end milkshake mixers for our glaze tests. We always say that you can never mix well enough. Well, one of the interesting things that we found working with students throughout the years is not everybody has the same quality control standards that we do.
You think?
And so it really became this, this question of like, what is the absolute minimum that we have to do to get something to mix well? And so we've been looking at two things. Rose did a great series of tests, just looking at time.
Laziest thing ever. So basically, what I did is like I had a series of 6 different tests, and basically timed them and gave them like 30 seconds of a shake, and that's it. So I added material to the water, let it sit for a certain amount of time, and I changed the times each time. So the first one was like sits for a minute, and then I shook it for 30 seconds and applied a tile. And then the next one I shook it for put it in the water again, shook it, let it sit for 2 minutes, and then shook it for 30 seconds again and dipped a tile. And the first ones were hilarious because like I put it like looks nice and smooth on the surface. It does look mixed, but then as soon as I put the test tile in, I pull it out and it's like rock stuck to it. It's
chunks of kaolin.
It's like that one's not mixed at all. And then put it through the kiln and it just came out the same way. It was quite funny.
And you just get these little icebergs of kaolin all throughout the glaze. They're really nasty and amazing. But what Rose discovered though is that the soak makes a difference.
Oh yeah, it does.
Actually, so she was really looking at two things. One, first and foremost, everybody, add dry material to water. That first and foremost. Do not try to add water to your dry material. Add dry material to water, and that gives it a chance to hydrate. And that's really important because when you do get to mixing, if all the particles are soaked with water, then they're going to distribute through the water much better. So big thing number one. The other thing is just letting it sit in water. Soaking is huge. The longer you can let it soak, the better. I think, what do we find? Like 10 minutes was like okay.
10 minutes, it was okay. And longer than 10 minutes. So we went up from 10 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour. 30 minutes was good, and an hour was ideal.
Yeah. So let it sit. If you don't have a mixer, definitely let it sit.
So theoretically, she could have the dry mix all together, add it to the water, let it sit, and then, let's say it's like a slurry, dry that out and wedge it.
Well, we're at part 2 now.
No?
Because I did a separate test.
Oh, sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Thought we were done with that one. Okay.
Well, for a basic glaze batch, like if you have bentonite in your glaze batch, yes, just add dry to wet and let it sit for an hour. Let it soak so that when you do go to mix, it'll be better. But what I did while Rose is doing is that one, I went and looked at just trying to mix bentonite and V-gum with water. And I was doing it at different percentages, and I was aging it and all that. And yeah, just mixing bentonite with water is hard, because bentonite, for those who don't know, like is it's an ingredient we add to glazes to help keep them suspended without adding in kaolin, because kaolin can change chemistry. And we add it to clay bodies because it'll tend to make clay bodies more plastic. But bentonites in themselves are a type of clay. Kaolin's not the only type of clay. There's lots of clays out there. But bentonite swells. It literally absorbs water and it expands, which is kind of why it does the cool things that it does. The problem is the more bentonite you have to water, it just swells, but it doesn't disperse again. And that's the big problem with what Jennifer's asking about, is that if you just add bentonite to water and you don't have a way to mix it really well, it's still going to end up in chunks.
Yeah, so it gets like a jelly on the outside. The inside is still could be powder, but it's like it's like a booger. I mean, it's pretty. Put it plainly, it's just like a booger.
Yeah,
Producer Ben, we need to put a title on this episode. This is the snot show.
I know, this is a snot episode. Everyone will refer to it.
Sponsored by Kleenex.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben.
And what I found is that either A, you had to give it a really intense mechanical mix, but I wasn't doing that. I was still going for lowest common denominator. What I ended up doing to get rid of the chunks is to pass it through a sieve, because literally the bentonites were getting into chunks. So I'd go with the same rules. Add dry to wet. Let it sit. Bentonites, you really want, if you're minimizing your mixing, let it sit for 24 hours at least, and mix it by hand as well as you can, and then consider passing it through a sieve, because you're still going to get chunklets in there if you don't. The way around it is what Jennifer was asking, though, is just do a high intensity mix of it. So like I said, we use a milkshake mixer. You could use an immersion blender or a food blender, any of those types of things. But a mechanical mix solves these problems because it just breaks up all those agglomerates before they ever get a chance to form.
I was just trying to think of the name. What are those, the mixers that everybody makes like bread with, and
those dough mixers,
KitchenAid, like the dough. Yeah.
KitchenAid. I don't know if a KitchenAid would work really well. A blender would work.
Okay.
A blender would definitely work. I mean, you'll have to spatula out it. I mean, you're like gonna have Booger City inside the blender, but
Booger City. All right. So we're going to shock our audience, and I'm going to try and get in one last question just because it's kind of strange, and I think we can do it quickly. But this
let's do it, Matt.
Okay.
Keep it short.
Stay awake, people.
I'm sorry. I wasn't listening. I didn't hear you.
Lauren wrote in and said, I've acquired a brand new huge lot of Stengel blueberry pattern dishware, which I have no idea what that is. I am concerned about lead poisoning and using it every day and putting it in the dishwasher. Thanks for any comments about the safety of the glazed dishware. What the heck is that? I'll Google
look it up.
I know. God.
It's a commercial dinner. I mean, that's the major thing to know.
Is it like an old one, or is it?
Yeah, it looks like it's an old pattern.
It definitely is. I don't know the history of the work. So I mean, I really can't say.
So it was manufactured in 1950 to 1978.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
1978. That's a real tough year right there.
Oh, yeah,
Because
it's so tough.
that's when lead regulations came into play.
I remember the commercials on TV. It always show like some toddler gnawing on a windowsill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did that all the time as a kid.
as they're known to do. Okay, Matt, come on. Show us we can answer
Short and
something
sweet.
quickly.
Come on.
Let's do it.
Come on.
I don't know. Googling whether or not it has lead just gets you a bunch of people trying to sell it. So I don't really have a good answer to it. But there is some references that there may be lead in it. And considering the time frame, I would not be shocked if there was lead in it. Would that concern me about using dinnerware? Nope, not in the slightest. Don't care. Now, I say this, and a lot of people freak out about lead. And if you're on social media, there are a bunch of fear mongers out there who are trying to make everyone afraid just in the very presence of lead. Those people need to just get lost, because I'll say the big one out there, who I won't name, is selling lead tests, everybody. He's trying to get you to buy his lead tests. But am I concerned about lead and glazes? Not in particular. Similarly, we were talking earlier about the use of cadmium. The two restricted materials are lead and cadmium. If they are used properly, I have no concern whatsoever. I have zero concern about lead toxicity in manufactured dinnerware. And the reality is, probably y'all are eating off of leaded dinnerware all the time, and you just don't realize it. Because to this day, the rules are not that you cannot use lead. The rules are that you have to pass a lead leach test. And because of that, a lot of dinnerware still uses lead, because lead does work very well in glazes. And
it works really well in manufacturing. Like, the process is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My mentor, Dr. Carty, always said lead is the closest thing to magic in ceramics.
Wow, really? Huh.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. And if composed and fired well, it's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with using it. Now, that said, can bad things happen? Sure. If you are concerned, you can have it tested. But we also have to think about our lifespan in dinnerware. One of the interesting things about lead testing from an FDA, Food and Drug Administration standpoint, is that they have different release levels for different shapes. So plates can have much higher levels of lead release than a pitcher. Why? Because your food is in contact with a plate for like 15 minutes. And it's just a little bit, it just touches here and there. A pitcher is different because, like, back in the day, you didn't get, you got your milk from the milkman and it came in a glass bottle and you had to pour it into a pitcher, and then it would sit in the fridge for days as you drank the milk. Or even worse, something like orange juice, like frozen concentrated orange juice. Everybody remember that? Coming in the can and you mix it with water and all that.
I always loved that sound it made.
That is citric acid that would then again sit in that pitcher for days. So pitchers have a much lower lead release level. So at the end of the day, I really would not be concerned. If you are absolutely concerned, don't use any pitchers and don't store food in them for a long time. But even if it has a lead glaze, you can eat dinner off of it. And since it's industrial ware, assume it's been through the testing. Use the cups, use the bowls, use the plates, but don't use anything for long-term storage. That's really going to be the biggest concern.
Yeah, and those at-home lead tests don't work for ceramics.
That is a huge point. Don't use the at-home lead tests. Ever, 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 ever. They are not intended for ceramics. Ceramics must have laboratory testing. They have to be tested in a 4% acetic acid solution for 24 hours and then have ICP testing. And you can't do it at home.
So no lemon slices.
No lemon slices. And yeah, it's just be practical about it, everybody. But no, I would not be concerned with that dinnerware.
Great. Well, Lauren, enjoy your huge lot of Stengel blueberry pattern dishware. We're just making dreams come true today, people. This is wonderful. Ash doesn't hurt electric kiln elements. We can use our blueberry plates. This is going to be great. So until I see you again, Matt and Rose, take care.
Bye, Kathy.
Later, Kathy.
Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of For Flux Sake. I'd like to thank the listeners who submitted questions this week. And if you want your question answered on the show, shoot us an email at ForFluxSakePodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time. And when in your studio, remember what Rose always says.
Always remember to test, test, test. This is a test of the emergency glaze system. Beep.